Stop trying to manipulate people just to get what you want, or put on the mask or the face because you think that's what people want to see. We're in a culture now where so much of our life like this is online. Like, you can't hide anymore. People get it. People are hip to that. I mean, that's the thing, that all this technology and all this learning that we've all done is, I grew up in New York. It's like a bullshit meter. You can't get away with stuff like that anymore. And if you lie and if you are fake, people get it and they're not going to listen to you. And then you have to deal with it.
Great setup. I love that. Why do these things, why do these things matter, right? If I'm the listener and I'm thinking, I just want to grow my business, or I just want to, I want to have better relationships, or I want better health. Like, some of the stuff that you're talking about, metaphysics and the nervous system and some of this like deeper psychology stuff. I know you use a lot of like Jungian archetypal, sort of models. Is that necessary? Right. I'm just playing devil's advocate here to play around a little bit and to set the frame. But it's like you could imagine that could be a question that someone listening might have.
It's the first question. Absolutely.
Yeah. So what would be your answer to that question?
Well, the simple answer is pretty much everything I'm going to tell you is probably opposite of what you've heard. And that's the way in. And as the great Jim Rohn said, you want to change the world, you got to work on yourself, right? All those things that you mentioned are external, whether it's the job, whether it's the relationship, whether it's the family, whether it's even your mission in the world. It all comes back to the guy standing in front of the mirror. And often men will achieve all those things, specifically men. They'll be successful. They'll check all the boxes off. They'll have all the things, and they're miserable or unfulfilled. And if that is kind of the ultimate pain, is to have all the things that the culture said this is what you need to have to be happy. And I'll tell you what, I have some good field research to tell you that men aren't happy that have those things. Now, those things are great, and happiness can go along with that, but you have to have the internal happiness. So everything has to start from within, whether it is your health, your vitality, your energy. You talk about relationship, you are the part of you that brings to the relationship. So if you're going to a relationship to get something, to have a certain experience, but you're not bringing that, well, good luck with that. That's going to be very painful. And there's a reason our divorce rate is almost 70%. So I would say it's the most important work. And really, in this world, if we truly want to see, not to get too kumbaya, but if we want to change the world, we got to start with ourselves. That's the only one I'm really responsible for. And I think that's been a big problem in the culture, is everyone wants to tell everyone else how to be, and they need to kind of have a little bit of a gut check, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's humbling, right? It takes a lot of humility to suggest that, it's like that Spider-Man
with me?
meme. Yeah, exactly. That Spider-Man meme where it's like, the person who's all, the source of all my problems.
Condition. It's the human condition. We're all beautifully flawed. And if we just accept that and be humble and be willing to own some stuff, we're not perfect. I make all my own mistakes. And the thing I've learned most important that I really get across to the men that I mentor is take accountability, ownership. Really take ownership of your life, of the things you say, how you say them. Stop trying to manipulate people just to get what you want, or put on the mask or the face because you think that's what people want to see. We're in a culture now where so much of our life like this is online. Like, you can't hide anymore. People get it. People are hip to that. I mean, that's the thing, that all this technology and all this learning that we've all done is, I grew up in New York. It's like a bullshit meter. You can't get away with stuff like that anymore. And if you lie and if you are fake, people get it and they're not going to listen to you. And then you have to deal with that. So it's I've had to deal with that in my own life. And this is why I am where I am today, because I just said, you know what, I'm just going to be as transparent as I can be. I'm going to put it all out there. And I realized instead of losing love, I got more love. How ironic, right? Again, the opposite. We think with love is going to be withdrawn if we show who we truly are, because the metrics people are using to judge themselves, ha ha ha, judge themselves, is the metrics of the culture. And the culture is energy neutral at best. It's not energy rich.
Hmm.
And we need to come from a different, or tap into a different energy source. And if you want to go even further, it's not even about tapping into it. We are it. We're floating in it at all times. So wherever you want to go with that.
Well, it's great. What is what does accountability look like? Like let's make this practical, right?
Yeah.
And whether you want to use an example or a hypothetical example, but like what if I'm listening to this and you know and this gets into some of the shadow work that you do, right? Maybe you could
Yeah.
even define what the shadow is, but like I remember, um, wanting to change the world, and then also, maybe around the age of 30, realizing that most of the reason I wanted to change the world was actually some sort of ego fulfillment about, power and prestige of like being somebody who's,
Yeah.
some sort of status symbol. And so it's like, okay, in theory, I had one motivation, but underneath I had a different motivation, and I had to take accountability for that. Now it's like, there's a new part of the shadow that's revealed every week or every month. It would seem that I'm becoming conscious of. Can you talk about that a little bit? How does one actually take accountability
Yeah.
for looking at the man in the mirror?
Yeah, I hear two big things there: the accountability piece and then the shadow piece. I'll start with the accountability piece. It takes a radical honesty, a self ownership, an extreme ownership of what you say you're going to do and what you do, and that takes a lot of discipline and a lot of perseverance and a lot of grit. I think most men, most people have really good intentions of their what they want to do in the world, how they want to treat people, but it gets hard the day in the day out. We have an acronym in our group called DARK, DARK, do daily action required king. Like it takes to chop wood, carry water.
Hmm.
And that's kind of lacking in our culture because people have gotten comfortable, things have gotten easy. You can pretty much get everything from your phone now. There's not a lot of go out and work ethic anymore. It's different. It's changed. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, as you know, you'll stay up all night working on something because you're driven and you have a vision for what you want to bring to the world. One thing I learned early on in this quote unquote coaching space is not to sell accountability. So that's one really important distinction. I'm very clear with this with men up front. Like, I'm not here to like follow up with you like a nanny or a mom or anything. It's like, you got to do your work. Now you're going to be in a container where that is the standard. That is the baseline. And if you don't conform to that standard or rise above that standard for any extended period of time, you just don't, it's not a match anymore. Right. Like I work with men that are, entrepreneurs, leaders, high level corporate men, people that are successful and are responsible for other people. And just that alone requires a certain standard of accountability. You can't be floundering. Right. But if you are, you can entrain to kind of the pool of fish. Right. But if you don't sustain that, then you'll fall away. So accountability is really a self accountability and a way and a sort of a forum to keep yourself accountable. That's where the group environment is so important because every man brings their 10%. And when every man brings their 10%, then we all can make 100% withdrawal from that energy. And I think we're seeing that more with hives and groups and tribes and people, conscious communities, things like that, where it is a more localized, focalized group of energy that is powerful. It's almost like little energy pods, and we're all like focused on a certain vision and mission. Mine happens to be Ignite the King. Yours happens to be Better Than Rich. And when that group, we have a thing called the bonfire. It's our thread that we have it on the daily. And sometimes you're the guy tending the fire and you're bringing all the energy to the group. And sometimes you're tired and weary and you just need to lay by the fire and get warm, right? But if everyone puts a log on and everyone stokes the fire, it's raging. Right. So you don't have to do it all alone, I guess, is the message. And that's a big part of the shadow, kind of to tie into that. Because one of the biggest shadows men face is I'm alone, I'm not worthy, and I won't be loved. And I have to do it all by myself. It's one of the biggest pains men experience is the lone wolf of like taking on the weight of the world, wearing the burden of their families, of their workplace, of the bigger world. I mean, however big you want to make it. And they wind up feeling just like stuck. and not realizing that there actually is a lot of support out there, but that is not something that has been taught in the culture for many generations, right? Just even the word emotion was like a dirty word 50 years ago, right? There wasn't even the concept of wellness wasn't even around till like the 1990s, right? And now wellness centers are, cannabis shops. So things just are new and they're still evolving, and just men being in an environment where we can talk about the ugly. We can talk about the things that I would never share that with anyone, or how might you judge me if I told you my deepest, darkest secrets and air my dirty laundry, and to realize again, love's not being withdrawn, but actually, and I know we've experienced this together in the sense of like, what makes you trustable? Wow, you sharing that makes me trust you more because now there's nothing to hide. It's all out there, right? And again, you have to be able to do that in an environment and a facilitation where it can really be held sacredly, because doing that kind of work haphazardly can lead to more harm than good, for sure.